Hey guys, it's Pineapple, and we're here with the events of My Hero Academia chapter 390. We're going to talk about the full spoilers and everything that happens in the chapter. So shout out to Rukusu, and let's get right into it with the chapter, the title being Shoto Todoroki Rising. And you know, anytime that we see Rising in the title next to a character's name, this is definitely going to be a very big chapter for that character, right? We've seen that even as early as Momo rising early on in the series, so let's see what Shoto has to offer in this chapter. According to Rukusu, the chapter begins with Iida's legs reaching their limit and him telling Shoto that he can only take him so far. And on the page, that is in fact what we see, with Iida's engines looking like they're literally just completely blown out and him looking like he's about to pass out, as Shoto looks really calm and focused using his Phosphor technique and building it up as the two kind of ride this weird giant ice jet that Shoto has formed. From here, it's like Iida wants to give Todoroki a proper send-off, so they go max speed for a second here with them bursting through the town like we saw last chapter, and we see in the area where Tsukauchi and all the police are who are actually watching this, they're entirely shocked because the two boys are apparently going at transonic speed, which is a speed right before you hit faster than the speed of sound, meaning they're going incredibly fast right at that barrier of like maximum speed in this verse. So as Iida falls down, not able to continue on anymore, and we see Shoto kind of bouncing on the ground and realizing he has to keep going, he propels himself using his Phosphor technique. And Tsukauchi, watching these two boys struggle, right? Watching them actually making their way to the most dangerous place that there is, this giant explosion that Dabi is about to cause, he thinks that All Might might have finally become a good teacher, right? Because that's been a big meme throughout the series. All Might's not necessarily the best teacher that there is. But here in this moment, seeing the result of what he taught these two, Tsukauchi can finally give All Might his respect. Like, wow, whoever taught these two, you're amazing. It's at this point where Iida thanks Shoto for allowing him to become his ideal self, and that's why he wishes for Shoto to also become his ideal self. And this is when a narration starts showing exactly what it was that Shoto wrote in his letters to his mother earlier on in the series when she was locked away in that facility. And as this is all being narrated, we see Shoto running and doing everything that he can to get to Dabi as quickly as possible. In Shoto's letters to his mom, he says he's giving his best every day to reach his classmates' level. He's even been practicing conversation. These conversations have led to many conflicts, but the resolutions of said conflicts has allowed him to understand other people's feelings. His friends feel anger and even cry for strangers, and he also wants to be like them. And this just paints a really sad picture for the Shoto who we knew originally at the very beginning of the series, because we did see Shoto change a lot from who he used to be to who he is now. But seeing these private letters between him and his mom and his entire viewpoint on the entire class, and how even though most people thought he was the most advanced in the class, he looked at them like he still had a lot to learn from them, it's just really sweet, honestly, and it feels like the perfect thing to include as the series is coming towards its end. It's here where we cut back to Dabi and Endeavor as rays of light start shining from all over Dabi's body, and he is about to explode. However, in that moment, we see every single member of the Todoroki family turning around and realizing that Shoto is here. Shoto finally gets close enough to the rest of the family and thinks to himself that if Dabi's origin was really something so simple, they could have solved it a long time ago. And as Dabi is right about to explode, Shoto uses his Great Glacial Aegir technique again that he used in their previous fight. And when Shoto does this, his eyes go completely white, his mouth goes completely open as it looks like he's expending all of his energy here. And when this technique goes off, it looks like a giant mountain of just white just appears in front of him, clashing with Dabi's fire, and it entirely wipes it all away. In the flash, we see that everyone is still watching, from news crews to the helicopter to people all over, including Endeavor's biggest fan. But despite everyone's shock and everyone's hopes and everyone going crazy over what's happening, we see the Masagaki students are just smiling. And as everyone continues to look on, we see the massive fire dome that Dabi had previously formed that everyone was running away from actually just disappearing into a large cloud of smoke. As the smoke begins to clear, Shoto realizes that the the rest of his family is also there, saying that this is a good thing because his ice attack alone wouldn't have been enough to stop Dabi, because apparently Dabi's fire was even hotter than in their last fight. But I feel like this is definitely Shoto being humble to a certain extent, because it didn't seem like the other Todoroki family members were really doing much once Dabi actually started to go. And then in that moment, as we see Dabi laying down on the ground and Shoto standing above him with his hand out facing him, Shoto screams out that this proves that he can't do everything by himself, so he's not a masterpiece at all. It's at this point where Toya regains consciousness, saying, "You guys," and then starts saying that everyone should die, including himself. And as Natsuo looks at Dabi and realizes the ice that's inside of his chest, meaning that Dabi also has an ice quirk, Natsuo questions his brother and what he's gonna do next, because all that awaits him is a hellish life, even though he did survive. Endeavor then apologizes for not going to Tsukauchi Peak, but Toya says that he hates all of his family, and in response to that, Endeavor wants to know all of Toya's feelings, as Endeavor crawls over with his one arm and places his hand on his son's chest. As he does this, Endeavor apologizes to Rei for all of the abuse that she faced. He apologizes to Fuyumi for pushing all of the responsibilities in the family onto her, and he apologizes to Natsuo for abandoning him. However, when he goes to say something to Shoto, he just mumbles, "I'm sorry," and apparently loses consciousness. So it seems like we did manage to save Dabi physically, like his body isn't going to completely crumble away, but mentally, he is still in that exact place that he was in before, right? Where he hates every single member of his family, and he doesn't want anything to do with them, thinking that they all should have just died in this instance. So he definitely has major regrets, and he's definitely not smiling here, and that's going to tie into the final page of the chapter, where we cut to Toga in her kind of twice copied form, as she sees that the flames over in Dabi's area have gone out, and she remembers Dabi's words from before when he told her that the sun's gonna come up tomorrow, so no matter what, all they should be able to do from now on is smile, and her eyes get teary as Toga wonders, "Toya, were you able to smile?" But in front of her, Ochako looks very determined as she gets dogpiled by a bunch of Twice clones, and this is leading many people to believe it might be finally time for us to see Ochako's quirk awakening. But that's not gonna be next week because My Hero Academia is on break.